we have to be compassionate to that. You can't get upset with your kid. Why are you what's the matter with you? Why are you so selfish? Why are you so selfish? I don't know. Go ask God. He made me this way. It's me. I'm selfish. What can I do? Can you help me? Do you mind? I'd really appreciate it. We have to understand our children, and we have to see, it's like Rabbi Shlomo Baba said, it's not the Yid that smokes, it's the Nazi who's smoking. This is a good kid. This is a good kid. He happens to have ADD. That's his nisayon. Be impulsive, or selfish, or lazy, or anything else. Disrespectful. That's their nisayon. They're my job. That's my job to help them. We have to be realistic about our children and not expect like they should all be these perfect. No one's perfect. No one's born perfect. No one is perfect. No one leaves the world perfect. It's the process of life. And we're better during this stressful Yomim Tovim to remind ourselves of this truth so that we can approach our kids with compassion and they can feel our sensitivity towards them. Halavai, halavai, halavai. There's a Chasam Sofer, an amazing, amazing Chasam Sofer, on a pasuk in Koheles. The pasuk says like this: Eilecha eretz shemalkecha nar v'sorecha b'boki yochelu. I'll translate it. Eilecha eretz, oy vey for the country, shemalkecha nar, whose king is a child, v'sorecha, and the ministers, b'boki yochelu, eat breakfast. I'm just translating literally. A very strange pasuk. What is the pshat in this pasuk? So the Chasam Sofer, let me see if I can read it to you, if I have it. Yeah. So the Chasam Sofer says a fantastic thing on this pasuk. He says like this. You know what, let me just say it out so I'll explain to you. Well, let me explain. He says, Oy vey for the country whose king is a nar. Oy vey goes on the second part, whose ministers eat breakfast. It means like this: oy vey, if a country's king is young, oy vey, because the ministers eat breakfast. We'll see what it means. And he explains like this. It's impossible that it's oy vey if a king is a nar, because Shlomo HaMelech was the king at 14, and he was a great bracha for Klal Yisrael. So you can't say oy vey for a country whose king is a nar, because he himself was a nar at 14, and it was a wonderful thing for the country. So it's impossible to say that. It must be oy vey if the king is a nar, because the ministers eat breakfast. What does it really mean? It means like this. He says, impossible that a child will not be childish. You ever imagine saying to a child, you got a child, and you say to him, you're such a nar. You're behaving with such narishkeit. You know what the kid should say? He say, yeah, I mean, technically I'm a nar. That's right. A nar should act with nar-ishkeit. Because I'm a nar. Zog the Chasam Sofer. It's impossible for a child not to be childish. It's impossible for a nar not to act sometimes narish, with narishkeit. That's the nature of a child. It's impossible for them not to behave that way. He said, what's the job if a king becomes a king when he's young, 14, a young kid, he's not mature yet? What's the job of his ministers? B'boker shalai, in his youth, not when they eat breakfast. It means B'boker, in his early childhood. What's their job? Their job is to cover up, he says. Put a band-aid over their michsholim. He's sitting there with the crown, on the big, he's on the thing, he's 14, and he's like throwing the scepter up in the air, and he's playing with the crown on the scepter. You got to shield the world from this childish behavior of the king. That's their job. Protect him until he can grow up and behave healthy. You have to cover up. You have to shield him and protect him. Says the Chasam Sofer, oy vey for a country where the king became a king at a young age, and he says, V'sarecha b'boiker yochelu, they ate him up. They bit him. They criticized him when he was a child. Can't you act like a king? What's the matter with you? Behave like a king. You're a king now. You have to be kingly. And they start yelling at him and screaming at him to behave like a king. Zog the Chasam Sofer, long before he ever will become a fully matured king, he says, Yavesh Ruchai, he will be dried out. His spirit will be wrecked inside. He'll walk around feeling like a dead person. He'll never become the king he's meant to be, because he will have been criticized and blamed and knocked for his narishkeit, when in fact it is nature of a nar to act with narishkeit. We have to take mussar and respect the fact that our children are a work in progress. Even the researchers today who talk about brain development say and argue that brain development is not finished till 24. 24. And here at 14, where it's 10 years early, we're expecting this kid to behave. Sit up straight, you're bar mitzvah now. You gotta go, you gotta get up. Torah says you can't get chorus till the end of 19th year, because the Eibishter understands a person's a work in progress. We're in such a rush that we want our kids to give us nachas, and they have to be perfect, so we're pushing and pushing. They're not there yet.